DNVR Draft Pod.
Wow, let's go.
We're doing it, baby. Presented by Natures of Colorado, the Northeastern Colorado dispensary, providing top quality cannabis and a wide variety of products. Remember to use code DNVR online or mention DNVR in stores or drive through. Jake Schwanitz, Henry Chisholm, Andre Simone. How are we doing, fellas?
Good. We actually, Bruce Buffer was there at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so, like, he was sitting on, he was with Baldy and the all NFL guys. It was kind of fun. Like, just listen to him talk in a normal voice. Kind of throws you off a bit.
He speaks normal.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you should be like yelling or something.
Were
but
you
no.
just comparing Andre to Bruce Buffer? Is that what that
Well,
was?
he was doing
loves that
You did
intro.
the DNVR draft. What was the one you really held for a long time?
You got
Draft. Was it draft?
DNVR.
That's what it was. That's what it was. I was like, okay, Bruce Buffer. There you go.
No.
Have you heard his whole story? Because his brother Michael Buffer is the
Boxing guy.
boxing guy.
Yeah.
But they grew up estranged.
Really?
Yeah. And so
What?
then Bruce's dad saw.
Is it like the twin princes where one was like set and they found each other because of their voices though?
Basically, yeah. Like Bruce's dad was like
Crazy.
watching wrestling. Was like, hey, that's like my half son or something like that. And called up Bruce and was like, Bruce, you're never going to believe this. And then Bruce was like, oh, that's awesome. And then Bruce and Michael were just like, hey, Bruce should be doing this too. And so he took UFC. That was like in the 90s.
Some things are just destined, man.
Some things are.
Like the Broncos and quarterbacks.
It sure is. That is a great transition. There are quarterback rules that Bill Parcell, Sean Payton's longtime mentor, one of the great coaches in NFL history, of course, the head coach for Bill Belichick when he was the DC for the New York Giants. Very important to Sean Payton.
Very important.
And there's been a debate on these quarterback rules that Parcells has and their value. And I think they've kind of made a comeback as guys like Brock Purdy, for example, check off all the boxes.
Yep.
And those rules for Bill Parcells are when you evaluate a quarterback, must be a 4-year college student.
Yes.
Probably the most old school and antiquated of these rules.
Yes. Very, very much so.
And yet, when we go through Sean Payton's history, we will find that is one of the few things Sean has stuck to in all the quarterbacks he added, especially through the draft as the New Orleans Saints head coach. Must be a 3-year starter.
Yep.
There's some fine lines on this one. College graduate. This is a good one. And also full disclosure of the ones I'm able to find online. The most laborious one to get hard facts on. 30 career starts, which to me could kind of supplement 3-year starter, frankly.
Totally. Yep.
23 career wins. This is an important one. We're not big wins guys, right? No one likes win culture.
You know, totally.
But in evaluations, I think it's good.
And
Especially if you're not coming from a blue blood. Again, a trend I have seen in Sean Payton, not a guy who drafts blue blood QBs, but guys who drafts QBs who maybe have had unusual success where they're coming from.
somebody put together a great thread on Twitter about how quarterback wins, like, yeah, you should probably ignore those. Tight end wins, though.
Oh, God.
It's actually crazy how correlated it is. Because, like, I was just telling Spencer this, but, like, it's not just that the 4 teams who made the Super Bowl have, like, the conference championships have great tight ends. You go back through, like, the last, the best tight ends, best 10, 20 tight ends of this century. It's, like, most successful teams, like, all there. Like, even, like, Heath Miller barely makes the cut. And he's like, oh, yeah, he was the guy at the ceiling. But that's beside the point. Tight end wins, we're in on. Quarterback wins, not so much.
Just remember, the greatest tight ends of all time, for some, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, never won a ring.
True.
That is fair.
Who comes up?
Chargers, Chiefs, you guys suck. I hate you.
Who's 3, 4, 5?
Shannon Sharp.
Ooh.
Shannon Sharp.
Oh, Rob Gronkowski, some guy who we probably
care
don't
for
name
him.
who's still
Don't
playing.
care for him. Okay,
We're not speaking his name.
We're not exactly.
I'm
We're
not
not
saying
speaking
his
his
name.
name. No.
If anyone wants to in the comments, you can thank Henry Chisholm for appearing on the draft pod because this is the last invite he has.
Tight end wins.
Season, so.
Tight end wins.
Yeah. Thank you for that sound effect. If that was Majest.
Yeah.
We're off to a roaring start, boys.
Another box to check off, 60-plus completion percentage.
Yep.
In the modern NFL, there's like two guys who've ever worked out. Now three who had a sub 60% completion percentage. Donovan McNabb,
Okay.
Brett Favre,
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. And of course, that was the big knock on Josh Allen. I remember arguing with a lot of people online being like, oh, but he doesn't have 60% completion percentage.
Right.
Well, yeah, but McNabb and Favre.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Two
Trey
actually
Lance
nice comps for him.
Wasn't Trey Lance similar?
You were the Trey Lance whisperer. Do you remember?
I hated Trey Lance.
Trey Lance famously did not work out.
But
He did
yeah,
not.
but he had like this no turnovers, 0 interceptions, 26-0 his senior year. I'd imagine that would equate with a high completion percentage, but maybe not. Other thing with Josh Allen,
You'd
not
think
only-
he threw it so little.
exactly. Whenever he threw it was a touchdown.
Yeah, and I almost feel like pass attempts could be something that you substitute like number of like there's some of this you could get a smidge more analytical in.
Yep.
And dive into. Now, Sean in his tenure with the Saints from 06 to 21 only drafts 4 quarterbacks.
Yes.
Only 2 of those were drafted not in the 7th round. And I included Taysom Hill and Drew Brees just for shits and gigs. Why not, right?
Why not?
The 2 guys not drafted in the 7th round or beyond are Ian Book and Garrett Grayson. Ian Book is a 7 of 7 Parcells rule checkbox. All these guys also mobile. Something that I keep talking about with Sean Payton.
Definitely.
I saw your video on Shador Sanders. I'd love to debate it. This is
Let's
not
do
the
it.
place. One thing that scares me about Shador as a Sean Payton quarterback, though, I'd say the least mobile of the guys we're going to talk about in this class and probably in next year's class.
Not Penix. I think Penix Sanders is a debate.
You're in the same range of mobility.
Okay,
Yeah?
fair enough.
But they're not
Frankly,
like
I think they're both better athletes than Bo Nix. Bo Nix just runs it more.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
I'll calm down.
you don't
I'll
have
calm
to.
down. Ian Book checks off all the boxes. Garrett Grayson checks off 5.5 of the 7 boxes. 3-year starter. He was only 2.5-year starter. And Grayson actually doesn't have the 23 career wins. 19-14 record. Though that final year with Jim McElway and him and the Rams go 10-3. I mean, it's the one really standout season the Rams have had.
Ever.
In recent
I was gonna say ever.
Ever is not correct. Ever is not correct.
Well, in my lifetime.
I'm not trying to get hate mail. That's also incorrect.
Okay.
And then you have Tommy Stevens, a running quarterback from Mississippi State, a late pick in the 7th. I think we can emulate some of that, though he is a graduate. He is a 4-year college student, actually a super senior, and did exceed the 60% completion and the touchdown to interception ratio. Taysom Hill is a 5 of 7 guy. He barely misses on the completion percentage. He barely misses on the touchdown to interception. Drew Brees is a 7 of 7 guy. And then there's the Sean Canfield that they drafted in the 7th round in 2010. I don't know what's going on with that out of Oregon State. He's a 3 of 7 guy.
Yeah. My big takeaway is there isn't a huge history here.
No, it's a very, what the kids call small sample size.
The kids do love to call it that. Yeah.
Man,
But also,
it's all they're buzzing
Kids
about.
love small
he
sample
had
sizes.
Drew Brees most of the time. You didn't need to go find a quarterback. He was,
Exactly.
looking for Tommy Stevens. He was trying to find another Taysom Hill type of guy, even Garrett Grayson, these other guys, it's like, well, maybe we have a long-term backup here or something. Like,
Right.
He wasn't drafting for a franchise quarterback.
No, you're right.
You're going to let him get away with that? I can't say CSU sucks, but he can say Garrett Grayson just a
wasn't-
long-term backup.
I think maybe there was some upside to you could be the long-term replacement.
Okay.
It did not work out for Garrett.
Okay.
Even CSU
No.
people would admit that.
I mean, they'd have
those
to.
are simple facts.
Brees played, 4 years more after they drafted that guy?
Yeah. Oh,
At
at
least.
least.
Yeah.
At least. And Ian Book's drafted in 21. I do think there's a trend of athletes,
Yes.
seniors, more experienced than inexperienced.
Yep.
And yeah, there's not a huge sample size, but I also think, especially with the guys drafted earlier, these were factors that were taken into consideration. So let's run through this. And Tiff, if you want to throw some of the graphics up as we go through the top 3 quarterbacks, you can. We have some beautiful stuff here.
Shout out Yaya.
Let's start with Caleb Williams, shall we?
Please.
We shall.
Caleb Williams, a 4 of 7 Parcells rules guy. Not a 4-year college player. 2.5-year starter. I mean, as a true freshman, he takes over for Spencer Rattler, who I thought was going to be the Heisman and maybe first overall pick that year.
You know what's crazy with that?
Please.
So after the season, he transfers to USC.
He does.
You know who the top 3 in Heisman odds were?
I'm sorry, when? The
After
year
that
prior.
season. No, so like
After he transferred?
After Oklahoma, after he transfers, yep.
Matt, what year was
It's pretty
this?
simple.
Just
It's Bryce Young,
Uh-huh.
it's CJ Stroud, and Spencer Rattler's in front of Caleb Williams, which is kind of crazy. And it only lasted like that for a couple weeks. As soon as he transferred to South Carolina,
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
next. Then he like tanked. But for a second there, the odds makers thought Spencer Rattler coming back to Oklahoma was a slightly better chance of winning the Heisman as Caleb Williams going to USC. For like a
Lincoln
month
Riley
there.
would have left already at that point?
Yeah, he went with. Yeah.
That's
I was
weird.
just going through
The,
those odds back then, but yeah.
Rattler had some real hype there. There's no
did.
doubt about it.
And he wasn't terrible at Oklahoma. And going back through, I was just surprised at that stuff. Like, he wasn't great.
He wasn't
but
great.
Like, he was doing enough to get the
Inconsistent.
6-0. Inconsistent for
Very
sure.
inconsistent. He's in this quarterback class.
Exactly.
Actually, I bet he's
yeah.
a Parcells rule guy.
Yeah.
Nope.
I'm not impressed. Not a fan.
That's fair. Nobody is.
2.5-year
Nobody is.
starter, though. Not a graduate. So the two things we probably care less about Caleb Williams doesn't have, and it's borderline on the 3-year starter. I think there's some circumstances that'll allow for that. Also, being a 4-year college player, it limits you from the truly elite prospects who are almost always juniors coming out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
He's got the 30 career starts. He's got 34. He's got the 23 career wins. He's actually 24-10 in his career as a starter. 66.9 completion percentage. That's the highest of any quarterback not named J.J MaCarthy of the top guys we charted. 6.6 touchdown to interception ratio. Look at that right there. Just insane. No one else with a higher than 4.5 touchdown to interception ratio. Just wild. Checks out 4 of the 7 boxes. Does this change your perception of Caleb Williams one way or another?
Nothing can change my perception of Caleb Williams.
Which is?
He's incredible, a phenom almost. I'll use the G word, generational.
Ooh.
He's unbelievable.
Yep.
I kind of co-sign all of that.
Yeah. No, he's a freak. I do wonder with that touchdown interception ratio.
Yeah.
You know, if we were to kind of like tweak these to fit modern day, you definitely need to consider like the 4-year player. I might take that one out and just stick with the 3-year starters enough. But the touchdown to interception ratio is the one that I think it almost just needs to be bumped to like 3-1 because so many guys have 2-1 now.
Yeah, the lowest on this list is Penix at 2-8.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is the Indiana numbers skewing this a little bit.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6.6 touchdown interception ratio is crazy.
It's criminal.
Yep.
He's a unicorn for a reason, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, the knocks are going to be doesn't do the stuff in structure.
Yep.
He can get a little bored. He wants to play backyard football. I was trying to think of the guys I've knocked in the past for that. It's Josh Allen. It's Mahomes. Johnny Manziel. I really didn't like that about Manziel.
Baker?
Hard to say if that was true or not.
Baker
Baker
good.
was pretty in structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who really like strived out a structure that you would have said, oh, this guy plays backyard football? Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson,
Jordan
definitely.
Jordan
a little
Love's
Jordan
not
Love.
a bad one. Yeah. I
Like
was trying
Malik
to think
Willis?
Trey Lance.
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry?
Malik Willis. When we talked about him.
Malik Willis big time. I was thinking of Trey Lance, but I think a lot of that's more designated
Exactly.
QB runs or boots.
The structure is just a
It's
just a weird
structured.
structure. Yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
Howell did that shit too. He was
Sam
running
Howell
around.
does, yeah. So, it's a mixed bag. I kind of would rather the guy who can make plays above the X's and O's, though, and then rein him in and let him perform more in the
Drew Lock?
Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson, yeah.
These are coachable things.
Drew Lock's a decent one. There's some backyard football to his game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wentz, maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit at North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the concern for him. Anything else on Caleb Williams while we go through the Parcells rule stuff?
I mean, he's just a freak.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much more to it than that. Like,
Sean Payton fit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
It really is.
especially when you're talking about rookie quarterbacks. Because, like, it's rare that you get one where it's just like, oh, yeah, plug him in. And, like, Shador might be the next guy who's just like, yep, run, like, whatever complex offense you want. Like, he'll step right in there. He can go 1, 2, 3, make all his reads and make all those throws. Like, the fact that we're getting so far away from that in college football, like, if that's the one concern with Caleb Williams, I mean, that's a concern for everybody at this point.
Totally. And I mean, quarterback evaluation, I think more and more is who has the raw talent to survive, make plays, find success earlier in their career, to buy them a few years for their mind to catch up to the speed of the NFL game, not completely tank their confidence and their ability to even have a chance to start anymore.
Yep.
And then get into that latter part of their career where you really can get your Brady on, and start becoming more of an advanced cerebral quarterback. I'll tell you guys, Drake Maye was probably the most surprising of this one. He only checks off 2 of 7 boxes. Just a 2-year starter, just 26 starts. His record's 17-9, which, hey, at North Carolina,
Exactly.
having like a win percentage that is 65%, I think is half decent in the ACC.
Definitely.
I think that kind of fits the Sean Payton model of like guys, who've had success. Drew Brees, what he did at Purdue, not many other guys have done. What Garrett Grayson did at CSU. Even what Ian Book did at Notre Dame.
Ian Book was a revelation for Notre Dame.
No doubt, and took them to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
At best, they were a Jimmy Clausen 9-win, 10-win team.
Yep.
He actually took them to the playoffs and
Yep.
had them undefeated and won a lot of games. So even though that's a knock and he's not going to get that, I think that's a good one for Drake Maye. He just gets the completion percentage and the touchdown to interception, which touchdown to interception 3.9 is lower than Jayden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, and Caleb Williams. 2 of 7 would be less boxes checked on the Parcells QB rules checklist than any quarterback from what my research found that Sean Payton's worked with in the past. You guys are both big Drake Maye haters, or becoming
Man,
so.
why you got to say that like that? I never said I hate him.
I'm just trying to create interesting content and lead with spicy segues, man.
I watch him and he makes great throws. He's a great athlete. I just feel underwhelmed every time, almost.
What is it that leaves you with real questions of how's this going to translate to the NFL?
How he plays under pressure, for one.
With the caveat being like, as soon as he gets hit and there's a guy around his waist, then he's back to being like an alien. Like,
Right.
Like if there's a guy coming at him, he'll just miss the throw. As soon as the guy's like wrapped around him, it's like bang, just complete right over the middle.
It's weird.
It is weird, yeah. That's why, like, I was going through the notes, like trying to figure out like who is worse than a collapsing pocket, and I was like, well, collapsing pocket, Drake Maye sucks. Guy all over him, awesome.
Yeah, sprinting to the sideline with like an edge just chasing him down. Maybe he's got his jersey or something. He'll get the throw off.
That's where he reminds me of Andrew Luck when he does stuff like that. And he's athletic. The arm jumps off the page. There's some red zone throws that are like, man, this dude's high end. But between the stuff you guys tell me, between these, there's one guy I say this exercise did make me. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board a little, try to watch him with fresh eyes. It is Drake Maye. It really is. And I wonder, as we talk about draft capital and what would it take for the Broncos to move up all the way up to like the top 3, it starts to creep in. Would Drake Maye be worth it?
And that's where I'm at. Because like you can't argue with anything he does, like 15 yards downfield or more.
Right.
Like
He drops it in the bucket, man.
He does. And like the not even just the accuracy, but like the placement, like every time it's like the perfect spot over and over and over again. But just that is super important. But it does feel like the modern NFL, some of it is, I mean, starting with like the Peyton Manning Brady era where it's just like dice you up underneath, like keep it on schedule, like 8 yards, 8 yards, 8 yards over and over. And I don't know that he has that. Like if you want like an RPO slant, he'll do those. And in a Sean Payton offense, when so much like Michael Thomas slant guy, like you've got all that stuff. But when it comes time to like make those quick reads underneath, I just don't know that he has that. And as much as you like that stuff downfield, it's the reason everybody's passing the ball now is for the efficiency of it. And when you're saying like we got to hit 1 and 3 downfield versus two of 3 short, like the numbers, the ratios of what you need just change so much. And I'm not sure that's just not his game. It doesn't mean he can't learn, but that's my concern.
Right. It comes down to the Caleb Williams discussion. It's like, and the other thing is I've evaluated the wide receivers coming out that program the last couple of years. They're deep threats.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of intermediate weapons there, you know. I could see how that's more what he's going for. And maybe in the red zone, I do feel like in tighter quarters is where you see him shine a bit more. And then there's that other thing with Drake Maye where it's like, well, sometimes this happens where we hype a guy the first time he jumps on the scene.
Yep.
And it takes a minute to adjust.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like what you said. I watched him today, and it's like I felt like I didn't watch enough. Like, and at some point, you watch the whole
All of
2
it.
seasons, and you're neither closer nor further to coming to a conclusion, or you're right back where you started.
That's right.
But what you can't...
And you do this long enough, you start to hear some of the like legitimate concerns you guys are bringing up. Start to think in my head, yeah, boy, I swear I was saying the same shit about Josh Allen. Or I swear I was saying the same kind of stuff about Patrick Mahomes.
It is, but then you like end up faking yourself out. It's like,
No,
well,
I know. I know.
So I mean, it's literally it's a science.
It's also tough when there's like Caleb Williams right there with like just generational instincts on top of being like a freak. But just like the way that the angles that work, the way that like he gets out of the pocket and all of a sudden it almost looks like an option with like a running back leaking out in front. And it's like, oh, he's got this defender like stuck right here. And like, oh, where's he going to go? Do I run or do I don't? Like there's just so much of that sort of stuff. Whereas when I watch Drake Maye, I don't see like a baller. Like I don't see somebody who it's like, oh my God, like this guy's like, there's a lot of, I mentioned this to you before, but it feels like the throws to running backs behind the line of scrimmage who then get like hit for the first time 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's just like, don't do that. Or like there's plays where like he's run out of bounds like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage instead of throwing the ball away. It's just like, he's a young player, but it's, I don't even know it's football IQ as much as just like the instincts just aren't there yet.
It's like feel for the game almost.
Exactly. There's just one of those things where it just feels a little bit off. And again, a lot of it's like you watch Jayden Daniels and it's like,
He's
oh my
the
God,
least
he's making
experienced
things
of all these guys.
Yeah, so it does make sense.
That's part of it.
And like
for
you
sure.
can't argue with like the size and the speed and the strength and like
Yeah.
the all the raw tools are there. He's put them to good use down the field, but you just need to complete the package and just be a winner almost. Like it feels like when you need to get 5 yards, is he going to get you 5 yards? I'm just not convinced that he just hasn't shown me that he can.
Winning down to down, basically.
Exactly. Like he'll give you some chunk plays. Like it's almost, it almost people love to compare him to Herbert, but you get some of that vibe there too, where it's like there's so much going on and there's so many big plays. How are they not just like winning games? And it's because they just don't. You just need to be able to consistently matriculate down the field. You know. I'm just not sure he has that.
Yeah.
That's my concern. But still, like easy.
And I mean, maybe he's more Jay Cutler than Andrew Luck.
Definitely. I mean, this is what you just talked about. I was thinking about a lot today, the last 2 days watching these guys, was, you know, what do I value most when I come to ranking these guys? And for this class, for whatever reason, that aspect, that feel for the game, that just, you know, natural, like, I almost kind of hate to say it, but when you watch him and you just kind of see it and you know it, like that's a quarterback right there. He's playing the game like an NFL quarterback.
Exactly.
That type of thing. That's what I came back to a lot with this class.
But that's what like Shador's a gamer.
Is it that he looks like a quarterback?
No, no.
Isn't playing like a quarterback?
No.
I mean, he does
It's-
look like a prototype.
He looks like a
He does.
prototype, guys.
Yeah.
But it's just like watching the offense, how they move down the field, how they call plays, how he responds to pressure. You know, what's like his go-to move in and out of pressure.
Yep.
Just, you know, hitting the consistent, as Hank said, short to intermediate stuff. Like,
Yeah.
bore me with completions, man. Like, just keep
Exactly.
on getting completions for me, and we'll move the ball.
And that's why like it's the opposite of Shador, where I feel like he like you want to set your corners up, like run 5 curls and he'll
Yes,
just get whoever's
exactly.
open. He'll just do it over and over and
Exactly.
over. And it's like, oh, you want to go to like cover 2 or man or something. He's got something that comes like it all just like flows together in a way that I just feel like Drake Maye doesn't have. His game just doesn't flow together. He has all that downfield stuff, which again you cannot ignore, but it just I just want more. He's still a top 3 pick. If you're sitting there, if you're the Commanders, don't overthink it.
He
but-
checks off the special sauce boxes. He checks off the special
Yes.
sauce boxes.
Exactly.
And that's the raw tools get you really excited.
Yes.
whole lot of frosting.
How the raw tools then complement everything else is really the concern
A
ultimately.
lot of whipped cream on the sundae. Plenty of gravy on those potatoes.
No, I mean,
He does the
yes,
hard parts.
It's more like, I don't know, it's a sprinkle of caviar on there, you know? Like not every bagel comes with a sprinkle of caviar, you know?
Okay, that's fair.
Only some. Broncos fans haven't had a sprinkle of caviar in a
been a
minute.
minute.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
lots of
true.
cream cheese and lox,
Yeah.
but no extra
Yeah.
caviar.
But like what
Yeah.
Hank said, I
Guy.
mean, you look at what Drake Maye does, and you look at the trait, and that's what scouting is, right? It's looking at the traits, it's projecting traits. It's not looking at box scores. You know, how did this game compare to this game?
Yeah.
It's do the traits translate? And there are plenty of translatable traits from Drake Maye, but you know, the playing field of the NFL is leveled more. You know what I mean? Those traits don't pop as much in the NFL.
Is this the kind of prospect where if you just did a like numerical grading system based on categories, he grades a lot higher than if you as a human try to sit down and really scout him and give a full context of the yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those
I
are
mean,
those are the most
Wherever he
interesting.
goes, like if it's Washington and you can get on Madden and play Drake Maye and Terry McLaurin, have the time of your life right there. Like you're winning a
Right.
bunch of like that
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
dream to play with.
By the way, the numerical system I think usually steers me right.
That's how I learned to
The
scout.
eye and context can be
Yeah.
deceiving. You start to make excuses and exceptions
Yep.
for people,
Yep.
and it gets you in trouble.
And you have to think Sean Payton too. Or it's like this is
I
Sean
have
Payton
the
making the
perfect
pick.
transition. We will talk about this on the next side.
Sean sees him as a big ball of Play-Doh.
Yeah, he
big
does.
ball of Play-Doh.
He does, right.
So much Play-Doh.
There are never any excuses or exceptions when it comes to drinking Breckenridge Brewery.
That's even more Play-Doh.
Our craft beer of choice at DNVR. You want that extra little taste? They've got you covered. Beer of the month at the DNVR Par is Avalanche Ale. Breck Beer has a beer
we
for
changed it.
any.
Yeah.
Look at us. Look at us. For any occasion there is. There's no better way to watch a game. Have some Breck Brew with the homies on the slopes. Sometimes on the couch. A little extra taste.
Yeah.
Relax, you know.
Yeah. Me and
Maybe you had a
Lexi,
long 3 podcast day.
we're going to the bar tonight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This bar.
I've only seen, we've only been here for like a few Nuggets and Avs games.
Hell yeah. Double header.
Over also, like, this is the final push. So we're coming down watching the games,
I
drinking
love
some beers.
this for us.
Yes.
Check out the beer locator at breckbrew.com to find a Breck Brew near you. And as always, our presenting sponsor, Natures of Colorado, Premier. They do great stuff here. They do great stuff. They're the Northeast dispensary of choice, providing top quality cannabis and a variety of products. You got to go there, check them out, use the drive-through if you find yourself around them. $99 ounces every day. Use our code DNVR to get a full ounce of any shelf for $85 an ounce. They've got all sorts of great deals. Remember to use our code online or mention us when you go in stores. Use their drive-through. They've got you covered in all areas. Okay, circling back on Drake Maye real quick. Sean Payton would be intrigued by him, even though he doesn't check off basically any Parcells rules.
That's a different conversation. Like, I think
He is an athlete.
that's a red flag. Like, I think Sean looks at the 2 of 7. It's 2, yeah.
Correct.
That is a turn off. There's still obviously the turn ons. And I think that we have to remember that.
Whoa.
Yeah. We when we sit here and talk about, we're saying like, will he work out?
Yeah.
Sean sits there and says, can I make him work out? Which is just like a little bit different conversation. And when you see like the ball of clay, it's like, do we sit here and want to bet on what he becomes?
It's the
I don't know.
I'm gonna fix him boyfriend talk.
Exactly.
Right?
Which is a little
Yes.
bit different than like the friend saying like, is he fixable? Those perspectives can be varied.
Yes.
Totally,
Great point, Hank.
Totally.
Yeah, so I do think I'm curious because I'm gonna have Zach. Zach's doing the combine this week, and I'm gonna see if I can get him because he'll probably only get like one question in with Sean. But I want to I want to ask Sean about the quarterback rules because I feel like that's the big one. Because obviously, like Bill Parcell's guy. So like, do you update the rules? Do you throw them out? Like, so I'm gonna push that on Zach. And
You've
see if,
always only drafted seniors.
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna see if
Super
Zach will ask
seniors
that.
in
But
most cases.
I'd be curious because we talked about it a little bit, but the rules about college football players in the 90s are a little bit different than rules about college football players
That's
today.
right.
Very
And
much.
So
I think Parcells wrote these closer to the 80s.
yeah, I believe it.
Our first 5 of 5 guy is in fact Jayden Daniels, college graduate, 5-year starter basically. I mean,
Okay.
from the get when
Yeah.
he gets to Arizona State, 55 career starts. Graduated back at ASU as just a junior, from what I could find. 37-18 record, pretty nice. A 67% win percentage, 66% completion percentage, 4.5 touchdown to interception ratio. I guess this shouldn't come as a surprise.
Yeah.
Jayden Daniels fits nicely. You gave me a really interesting comp earlier, Jake.
Reminds me so much of RG3 in many ways.
Wow.
He's got the
It's so true.
got the arm to go all
It's a
over the
great
field. I don't know if he has the exact top end speed RG3 used to have,
Yep,
but
I would agree.
he's good. He's a burner. I mean, he can run away from guys.
The fact that he makes you think of RG3 and me, Michael Vick, as a runner tells you this guy
Yeah,
has
Yeah.
like nutty wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutty wheels, man. Super fast.
But then on the other side of that, I watch him run around. I watch how he gets hit, how he gets folded like a lawn chair half the time.
Yes.
He does not know how to slide.
Things that we defended about like Kyler and Bryce, smaller quarterbacks,
Yeah.
but quarterbacks where it was like, if these guys can't defend themselves as a runner, I'm out.
Right.
They were really good at. And Jayden, durability is always going to be such a concern, and it's because he feels lighter than he's listed at. You see him listed at 6'3", 220 even
Yeah.
in some places.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit. It's the one guy with prototypical size.
No,
But then-
Lamar was 6'3", 220.
On the field, he
Exactly.
does not look it.
No.
He doesn't. And as you said, he takes hits that are like, shit, how's he getting up from this?
Well, and then you go back to like his freshman year. That's I think they listed him 165.
Oh man.
And that totally checks out.
Exactly. Freshman year, Jayden Daniels was.
And those
Like-
concerns have lingered with me.
Oh yeah, as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, because you see him at that size and say, regardless of what the actual weight is right now, you worked hard to get that weight on. How much more weight is there to put on?
Yeah.
You know, because you've spent the last 4 or 5 years just adding and adding and adding. At some point, you just can't add much more. That's where you wind up with
Right.
the soft tissue stuff or
Right.
whatever.
He's dripping with special sauce, though, I tell you what.
He's amazing to watch. He's a lot of fun.
The deep ball accuracy,
Yeah,
the
he's-
easy arm strength,
Quick
and the
release.
running ability.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun, and I love watching him play football. But I watch him take these hits, and I'm just like, man, you got to help yourself, bro. Like you got to try and get out of bounds. You got to learn to slide. And he's got that RG3 thing where it's like he takes off and he's trying to score every time.
Yeah.
and it's like you kind of be more like Lamar, where you're running to the open space. You're not running to the end zone every play.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely. Again, like that's a difference. I think sitting here saying like, oh no, that's a reason I'm not sure I would bet on him. If you're Sean Payton, you say, I can get that out of him. I can teach him how to do it, and he might be wrong, but when you're looking at it from the coaching perspective,
Totally.
It's a little bit different conversation.
Well, we talk about it for years on the Draft Pod.
Oh yeah.
The egos on these coaches making
Oh,
millions
yeah.
of dollars,
Yeah.
having these coveted jobs that only 30 people in the world have. You would think that, oh yeah, I can teach a guy how to slide.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not talking rocket science. Teaching a guy how to slide when he's scrambling. It
Yeah.
sounds doable.
Exactly.
Shit, I think I could accomplish that task if you're
Teach him
giving
some-
me truth.
You go give him
serum.
some examples. Here's how you do it, Jayden.
Yeah. Hey, take him to a couple Rockies games.
Exactly.
You see that slide?
I mean, see, that's the thing though. Is like, why not? Like, you get those Rockies to come to you. It's like, hey, whoever the base steely guy is, I'm gonna learn this soon. You come out here. We'll give you like 10 grand. Come teach Jayden how to slide.
Totally. It's why I tune into the DNVR Rockies pod every day to find out who the base stealing guys are.
I'm excited. I'm doing the Denver Sports podcast tomorrow. Starts
Whoa,
at 2.
What a plug.
Yeah. So definitely, again, like tune in, watch that. First Rocky spring training game at 1. Harrison didn't love the idea. I'm gonna turn it into a little bit of a Rocky watch along. Not that it's broadcast anywhere, but
Whoa.
I'll at least be reading what's going
This
on.
is wild. I love this.
Can't wait to tune in, Hank.
Yeah.
Does it change your guys' perception of Jayden at all that he's a 7 of 7 Parcells rules guy? And the only one of the top 3 that can say that.
Again, not really. I don't question his talent or ability.
But does that raw talent paired with that kind of experience get you intrigued? And
Not
you know,
because he hasn't learned how to slide. Like, that's what I'm concerned about, though.
To me, it like
hey, safety first, as Danger Aaron would say.
I started covering CU Jaden's
Jackass
freshman year, so 2019. So I've been watching him for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Madden 20, first year of the DNVR Madden League. I drafted him in like the 7th round because I was like, oh, this is my guy. So
Okay.
like, I love that he checks the boxes. Seeing that he checks the boxes doesn't like necessarily change it for me because like I know he's experienced. I've watched. Like it's definitely like good to see. It is 7 of 7, but I do think that experience is beneficial. Like that's to me like part of the reason I've been so excited about him is because I've seen him go through so many different stages from like immediate star, teams don't know how to defend him, to sliding back a little bit,
Right.
to like he went like I think it was like 14 months without a turnover. No picks, no fumbles. I gotta try to figure out when that was. And then the last year, like 10 picks, 10 interceptions. The COVID year at Arizona State, transfers and just breaks out LSU. Like he's gone through that journey. Whereas you look at some of the less experienced guys, you know, like a Drake Maye, who I feel like is still somehow like on this little upswing of his journey. He hasn't like
definitely
had the downfall and then recovered it. Like you know,
Definitely.
Jayden, he's gone through the adversity. He's found different ways to win.
He does.
It's helpful.
It's not quite Garrett Grayson at CSU, but I think, you know, his success at
could be?
Arizona State, his success at LSU
Desmond Ritter at Cincinnati. Oof.
stands out more than most at those 2 programs over the years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ritter at Cincinnati. You're right. I mean, you're
Jayden
right.
kind of gets screwed by.
Paxton Lynch at Memphis.
Yeah.
Drew Lock at Missouri.
Yikes. But Jayden Daniels kind of gets screwed by Joe Burrow. If that whole Burrow era doesn't exist.
Literally 1 year.
Yeah, exactly.
Burrow
Justin Jefferson.
stunk his first year
Totally.
at LSU. No one talked.
That's strong, bro. He didn't
he
stink.
stunk. He stunk.
They won like 9 games that year, man.
Not with him looking very good.
Oh, all right.
J.J. McCarthy,
Okay.
Yeah.
3 of 7.
Uh-huh.
But the 2, so he's not a graduate or a 4-year college player. 2 years as a starter. In those 2 years, plays 29 games. So he almost gets to the 30-game threshold in just 2 years in the Big Ten. 28-1 record. 96.5% win percentage. Not too shabby. Did you know he has the highest completion percentage of all the top guys in this class?
I've been looking at your sheet, yeah.
That surprised me, though.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you know
Oh,
that going in?
No.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Yep.
You would. That's not the label he
yeah.
has as like most accurate of the class.
Yeah.
And again, I wouldn't say he.
Which
I'm
is-
not trying to say he is.
Bo Nix gets that. Would you get
Yes,
like he earned it
does.
this season?
Totally.
Like if you're just talking last year, who it was, like
So
he
good
did.
at playing
did do
catch
that.
with your kids in the backyard.
Absolutely.
Grandkids.
Wow.
Dang.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, it is weird. We'll get to Bo Nix, I guess, but that's
Tied
kind
with
of a
Jayden Daniels with the
dichotomy.
second highest touchdown to interception ratio, McCarthy.
Yep.
So he checks 3 of 7, but honestly, this did change my perception of JJ
Yeah.
for the better
Oh.
in a positive way.
Huh.
I
He
agree.
doesn't have that experience that
Yeah.
historically we've seen Sean covet, but for a younger guy has played a lot of college and some high profile college games.
Yeah, definitely.
Of those 29 starts, 2 are Big Ten championships. There's 3 playoff games in that mix. That's 5 pretty high-end games on top of playing, the biggest rivalry in college football. Another 2 times. That's 7 of the 29. Michigan State and beating up on the ghost of Mel Tucker a couple times a year. You got that going. That's 9 of 29.
Owned Penn State.
True.
So that's 11 of 29. Pretty
Yeah.
high leverage games. The stats jump out. The stats are really good. Whether it's win percentage, completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio. And he's got the raw tools and some of that special sauce we've been talking about.
Yep.
Sean fit? It's the ultimate dilemma. I placed the bet on Bet365 that he'll be drafted by the Broncos. I thought the odds were good at the time I
good
placed
bet.
this. Yeah.
Good bet. You watch J.J MaCarthy play, and he kind of has what we were talking about with Drake Maye. I watch him, and it's like, this is a quarterback.
Yep.
He just knows how to play the position. For me, it was kind of rough at times because, there were certain throws I'd just like look back on and go, damn it, I wish he didn't do that.
Yep.
But when you look at the whole body of work and you go back, kind of out of the context of a season and just look at it as literally scouting a player as opposed to, in my case, one of my favorite teams,
Yep.
he just does it all down to down. He will check it down. He's fine with just, flipping it to a fullback or a tight end for a short gain, keep the chains moving a bit.
Yep.
Great athlete, phenomenal athlete, super athletic class. He's right up there with the best of them.
Yep. Good size, great runner. And I think he does some of his best stuff off script, different from a Caleb Williams or a Drake Maye or a Jayden Daniels. It's more like he's dead to rights.
Yeah.
His body's contorted weirdly, and he can just get a throw out while his feet aren't set at all. And he's kind of like hanging back and falling behind.
He can.
And that's where he impresses me.
He had like a touchdown pass against Nebraska. He's rolling to his left and like throws it like while reaching all the way back to get his arm back. I mean, he's got pretty much the whole package.
Yeah. The accuracy will come and go a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ball placement doesn't feel like the best.
No.
Yes.
But like there are some throws though, like even some bad decision throws that work out. Like I think it was Washington where there was like a little curl in the slot. It's like he just doesn't even see the linebacker coming over. Or maybe sees him late and like whips it to the outside. And it's like just inches past the fingers of the linebacker. Like, should never have thrown that ball. But
The throw in the net
There
and
you
the
go.
Rose Bowl against Alabama on that game-winning drive where the linebacker tips it and it goes to Roman Wilson after he tips it, like stuff like that.
yep.
The first throw of the game against Alabama, man, should have been an interception.
He's fairly gutsy, but the touchdown to interception, the completion percentage, tell us it works out for him quite a bit more often than not.
You can't bet on that though.
Tell us why.
You
Margins?
just
Margins
can't.
conversation?
Yeah, margins. You can't.
Margins decrease?
Yes.
They do.
I mean,
They do
eventually,
significantly.
Yeah.
if you're relying on the bounce of the football, eventually it's going to go the other way. It's just how it works, how the game works.
And when that linebacker's arm is just like this much longer because it's an NFL linebacker, a little bit different. When
Yeah.
he jumps just this much higher because he's an NFL linebacker,
Or
a
if
little
it's
bit
Kyle
different.
Hamilton, he'll just go up there and snag it with one hand
Exactly.
instead.
Yep.
It's a good point. It's
Yep.
a good point.
Got long arms, those linebackers.
Moving on.
Okay.
Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
My guy.
That's
Your guy
your
too.
guy.
I'd love to hear that.
Oh, I
Look,
love
the
Michael
next,
Penix Jr.
the next 3 guys we've got here, they're all 7 of 7 guys. It's Penix, Bo Nix, and Michael Pratt. Penix, does this change things for you?
No.
Why do you love him so much? And why do you think he's a good Sean Payton fit?
Accuracy. ball placement, just a sniper is what he is.
Gutsy.
Yes, best in class at those areas.
The fact that he has a 39-8 record playing at Indiana
And Washington.
and what Washington was when
Yes.
he got there and
They were terrible.
right? Because like this wasn't Jake Browning's
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah.
They were there and then they fell off a cliff. Penix brings them back.
Montana beat 'em.
39-8.
I think that was the year before Montana got him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happened this year?
39
Both
and
teams
8.
in the championship. Both teams lose.
Meant to be, Hank.
Yeah. Couple
Drink-
second place teams.
Drink away. There's your Montana reference.
Ooh.
5 years as a starter, like Jayden Daniels.
We love that.
Is he too much of a system quarterback?
No. You can't teach accuracy.
Yep.
You can't teach that shit.
Placement.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
He's decisive. And the accuracy is on deep balls.
yeah, it's all over the field.
And there's accuracy and ability to mix it up from different arm angles, different platforms with your legs, and get the ball out. That's where his athleticism, ability to shine above the X's and O's. You know, it's not Caleb Williams running away from Leitu Latu,
Right.
Yep.
full speed, contorting his body like mid-jump and throwing it 45 yards downfield on a frozen rope on the exact outside shoulder. But it is having a guy bearing down on you, and instead of getting sacked or like the ball comes out wrong, being able to like contort your hips just enough to still get that out with zip and placement
Yes.
on time, avoid the sack, have bought yourself that extra second and made it work even though conditions weren't perfect. That's also above the X's and O's. That's also
Yeah.
not how we drew it up and being able to overcome that, right?
We saw it a lot from CJ Stroud this year in his first year in the NFL. Like, just one, it's very Tom Brady-esque. Just one step in the pocket to find that window. Penix does that a lot.
Totally.
Comes down to feel
Yeah.
for the game again.
Totally.
Right.
And he's another guy who's just fought so many battles. Like, again, like over
Great
and
point.
over and
Yes.
over.
He is resilient on and off
Exactly.
the field. What
Yes,
a great
totally.
point. I
Yes.
hadn't even thought of that.
And then you
Yes.
even go back to, like, I remember the first time I watched him.
So explain that to people on kind of a, for someone who doesn't know his history.
Well, I mean,
Overcoming
there's a whole lot.
injuries
So what,
and
the
whatever.
2 torn ACLs in the shoulder. So
Yeah.
like three straight seasons that ended with an injury.
Yeah.
And the last 2 totally healthy, which is, you love to see it, but that's a lot to go through. Obviously, you transfer, but like I remember going back to the first time I ever watched him was against Penn State in 2020. He has the dive for the 2-point conversion to
Yes.
upset number 8 Penn State during
Yes.
the COVID year. And you're like, oh shit, this guy can play.
Like in my lifetime, I'd never seen an Indiana team do anything like that.
No.
No.
And so you see that and you're like, oh my God. And in my mind, I remember that as being like the play that he got hurt. I don't think that's actually true. It was like shortly after that. But
It was that game, right?
It must have been. I mean, that was the overtime. I thought so too. But I just Googled the play just to make sure I was remembering it right. And nothing says like, yeah, tore his ACL or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, to have gone through all that, to take Washington to where Washington's gone, like just the highs and lows and highs and lows. Like everybody wants the young, like J.J. McCarthy's kind of like the happy little puppy, where it's like he's gone out there, things have gone well for him. He's done his part in making things go well, but there hasn't been like a whole lot of adversity. Like you put Penix in that huddle, like I just think that there's a different like I think he's ready. Like I think that you can plug him in week 1 and he'll go put the ball where it needs to be. And who knows if the receivers will catch it, but like he gives his receivers a chance over and over and over again. Like that ball on those sidelines, it's just right where it needs to be, right past the defender. And that's all you can really ask is like he gives his receivers a chance just about every single play.
Is there any special sauce?
Not much special. I mean, the accuracy. If you wanted to make the
Yes,
case,
the
the case would
accuracy.
be the accuracy. But that just the special sauce. Usually think of like, oh,
Raw
he's fast,
tools.
or like he's strong, or
Right.
like
Yeah. Is there one raw tool that ticks plus as a baseball scout would say? Size, athleticism,
Mobility.
arm strength.
Yeah, mobility 4 years ago. Here
it deep
now,
ball accuracy?
Probably.
I mean, well,
Elusiveness maybe is you
He's
think
solid in the
ticks?
pocket.
yeah. But like, I mean, he still kind of runs and stuff. Like
He
he's
does,
not like
yeah.
scared to take off anymore.
Throwing
Yeah.
on the move. I'd say if there's something that ticks as a plus category, it's probably deep ball accuracy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too.
He's quick release too.
Especially
Totally.
from within the pocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like deep ball accuracy, all things equal, maybe Caleb gets the advantage in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jayden. In
I
the
think
pocket.
probably, yeah.
Shit.
The only
That's
thing
the
with
thing. Jayden Daniels is a stone cold killer to be in
He
that
is.
conversation.
But yeah, those are two guys who I just love the fact that they fought back. They've fought, and they've got they have earned everything they've gotten, and they feel like they're as ready to go.
And if you're a Parcells guy and you like that, you like veterans who've been through
True.
the wars, that's really appealing for Penix and Jayden Daniels. Closing this out, Bo Nix, 7 of 7. Parcells rules guy, super senior, 61 career starts, 43 and 18. What? 66 career completion percentage, 4.3 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah, so I mentioned my first memory of Michael Penix is that dive in overtime
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah.
My first memory of Bo Nix, I believe. Yeah, so this was his very first career game.
Yep.
Against Auburn.
Yep.
Where was it? Was that in Texas?
Jerry World, I think.
I think it was Jerry
I
World.
think
Yeah.
so.
Against who? Sorry.
Against Oregon.
Against Oregon.
Yes,
and Justin Herbert.
against Oregon.
And
Auburn-
Justin Herbert threw the ball out of the end zone in the last play.
Yeah, real genius there
Wait, he
too.
pulls off the upset.
Bo
Bo does.
Bo, yeah,
Bo,
yeah.
Bo does by completing 13 of 31 passes with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. It wasn't necessarily Bo.
His
He did-
evolution much different than Jayden Daniels
Exactly.
and Michael Penix.
He wasn't he was one of those guys who come in, you're like, oh, Auburn kind of got a guy, and then you watch him play and you're like, oh, this didn't go well. A little Graham Mertzy, some would say, but
Well.
with a bit of a return at the end, and credit to him for that, playing at Oregon against the Pac-12.
He's very hard for me.
Yeah, he should be. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys? Let me pose this question to you, because the SEC is the SEC. They're the premier conference in college football.
Sure.
He goes. That's how that's what you're going to play against in the NFL. It's going to be more like it was at Auburn for him in the NFL than it was at Oregon, right? Like it has to be.
Well, and the crazy thing is,
Yeah, but I think the context is different, right?
for sure.
I
In
think
terms
it's
of-
the offense, the teammates he was playing with at Oregon.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely,
they were better teams, you know.
definitely, of course. But
I would love to have seen him this year play against Oregon's defense, though. That's one of those things for me where it's it's not necessarily the Pac-12 is so bad, but when you take Oregon out of the mix, they're not all that great.
No, I think he made some real improvements with his accuracy and his decisiveness. And his command of that Oregon offense, especially that last year, was supreme. And he took that to the next level to where you start to see some eye manipulation stuff and, really seem to feel comfortable and kind of working that second layer of the defense, and the accuracy on just deep balls, just a straight
Yeah.
go.
No, yeah.
Very good. And again, decisive, just getting it out, knowing when to run. It's all going to come down to the raw tools. It's all going to come down to the special sauce for me. Because he's not going to be able to do that unless he's got Jalen Hurts raw tools. You tell me hey, turns out at that size, that speed, he actually is closer to Jalen Hurts than just average. And I've also talked myself into this is a guy who maybe in a Brock Purdy setting could have that kind of pop.
absolutely,
Right?
definitely.
Half field reads, Shanahan offense, a little more on the move, decisive again.
Yeah.
You make it work. More of an asset as a runner.
I just feel like that's an exception. That's not the
Combine's
rule.
going to be big for him. Brock Purdy, a big Parcells rule guy, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Kind of brought
The
Parcells
definition,
rules
yes.
back. In fact.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just so weird.
This guy, though, man.
I know.
The
I
numbers
know.
are the numbers, and the success is the success. There is, you can't just totally write him off. Is my thing.
You can't.
No.
Where it's there
You
is
can't.
stuff that you have to like and appreciate,
Definitely.
and
You
the
can't.
efficiency is historic. Honestly, did he set the record for completion percentage? If not, he must
Yeah,
have come
he
close.
did. He
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And so to do all that, but then you look back at
And over the course of his
Ugh.
career, I mean, It's right there, 66%, like Caleb Williams, like Jayden Daniels, J.J MaCarthy, 67%. It's very high.
But the variance in that is crazy.
Exactly.
It's wild.
It's not even like
And
very
look,
so much as it's terrible. Like
Yeah,
it's like
please.
58, 59, 61.
Also-
It goes to Oregon, 71, 70.
Yeah.
Completion percentage, great. Context really matters. Like, how
Yes.
many of those are NFL throws?
They throw screens like 5 to 8 times a game.
Because they work.
They
Like
do
it's
work.
not a knock on the system.
Absolutely.
The system's incredible.
I mean, they're go routes in single coverage to Troy Franklin or Tez Johnson also
sure.
work, you know? And
Exactly.
but that's why I made the joke of like, if you want to play pitch and catch in the backyard with your kids,
Yeah.
that's as simple as some of these reads are.
You have who are the receivers at Auburn? You would have had Seth Williams. That's the one I can think of.
Oh man, who was the other one?
Yeah, Seth
I thought there was
Williams.
another
There's
big
a
guy who was
burner,
good.
like Cobbs or something.
Damn.
I don't know, but it's not.
It's
I mean,
it's not what he has here.
Gus Malzahn got fired
He
during
did.
that time. It wasn't a good situation at
Bo
Auburn,
might
guys. It just
probably could have
was.
saved his job if
It just
he was
was
better.
He could have for sure.
Yeah,
Anthony Schwartz.
that's right.
Oh yeah.
Who?
I mean,
Troy Franklin, Anthony Schwartz, like
speedster, but never turned out to be
in the
anything.
NFL. Yeah.
Michael Pratt's the last one out of Tulane. He is a super senior, which is why I think he kind of fits this. 47 career games, 28-19 record, 60.6% completion percentage. Barely got it. Lowest touchdown to interception ratio outside of Michael Penix, 3.5. Bigger than Bo Nix. Probably less athletic, but I think competency as a runner, I like him the same. No special sauce.
Yeah.
Accuracy thrown on the run, questionable. Something that concerns me about JJ a little bit as well.
Like if you had to bet on these quarterbacks who would have the longest NFL career, like
Might
he'd
be Pratt.
he'd be up there.
He's pretty safe.
Yeah.
No, and I tell you, of all these guys, he's probably the guy I was able to talk myself into the most after doing this exercise and seeing all the boxes that he checks.
Yeah. I'd almost go Drake Maye as a guy who lasts a long time. Like he's the other one I look at where you just like look at what he does down the field. It's like to me he oozes NFL quarterback, but just not necessarily like great NFL quarterback, good NFL quarterback. Like to me, you know,
He's
am I alone
Herbert.
there? Yeah, I mean there is some of that. Like if
To
you want,
me,
I'm
his
not gonna say no.
variance feels a massive.
Interesting. Okay.
Jose asking, are they all taller than Russ?
Yes.
Yeah. That's not hard to do.
So am I.
6'1's the shortest.
I'm actually not, but I'm pretty close.
6'1 would be the shortest. Yeah, is Bo Nix as small as any of these guys?
What's Penix listed at?
He's got to be 6'2".
It's going to be along the same range.
Yeah, I'm
It's
curious.
going to be along the same exact range there. So
I'm curious about the combine for these guys too. Just mostly for
I
the,
am,
the
which
height.
you never say for quarterbacks.
But there's so many questions.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Like,
Bo, we did get Bo, Pratt, and Penix. We would have got officials
Senior
at the
Bowl.
Senior Bowl.
Oh, true. That's true.
But I want to know how much Jayden Daniels weighs.
exactly. I want to know how tall Caleb Williams is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Size thresholds are going down as Parcell's
Definitely.
rules make a comeback thanks to Brock Purdy.
And it's just the NFL. Like everybody's smaller now. It's all about small and fast. The quarterbacks can get away with it too.
a little bit.
Weird
Yeah.
quarterback class, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of these guys that check off all the Parcells rules. Can't say that with a lot of classes. So there we go.
Can I ask one question before we
Please.
get to the end?
Please.
So there have been 2 times in NFL history that quarterbacks have gone 1, 2, 3.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that happens this year?
No.
Yes.
Really?
Okay.
Who's the third?
Drake Maye.
Well, and who's your second?
Jayden Daniels.
I love that.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
It's the consensus 3.
Yeah.
In the order we just talked about them.
I don't know. There's been J.J. MaCarthy
I
top
mean-
2 hype recently and stuff.
Totally.
There's been all sorts of
Totally.
stuff.
Shout out to Kaloop for the super chat. I'm trying to see if there's any other comment.
Good day to you too, bro.
Matthew saying Penix has been better than Caleb for 2 years. Not sure about that one. And Jose with a hilarious comment. He thought the biggest rivalry in college football was Notre Dame versus the Hype. Which in some ways, he's not wrong. Okay.
Stephen A. randomly taking shots at Notre Dame yesterday too. Did you see that?
Awesome. It's good for the brand. I do it too.
So wait, he didn't always wear chains, right? I was just
Stephen
walking
A?
by the gym and he was like wearing like, you know, the turtle chain, all that stuff.
Stephen A.
Yeah.
You walked by Stephen A. at
No,
the gym?
no. Like, no, he was on the TV in the gym. But like, I don't remember like when I was a
We were
younger
all
me watching.
confused on that one.
He was not a guy who was cool enough to wear chains back then. At least in my memory.
Well,
Maybe he was.
He's been around. You know, he wore like the big baggy suits, 20 years
right,
ago
yeah.
and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Okay. He was cool back then.
it's an astute obso there. Well, that's going to do it for us.
Draft Pod special.
That's the quarterbacks in this class. Thank you to the phenomenal work on the production team for those graphics. We'll be back next week with J. Mike and a whole lot more. Maybe getting into another position. So stay tuned for that. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.